Good evening, everyone. It is at 6:34 p.m. I would like to welcome you all to the Ward 3 Neighborhood Planning Assembly meeting in Sharon Bush Conference Room, May 6th, 2026. May I have a motion to call to order?
A motion to adopt agenda.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. And to start us off with this meeting, we have Department of Public Works Construction Workplan and updates. We have Robert Goulding and Chapin Spencer here to join with us to break it down. Take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Zach. You've officially jumped right on into the meeting. Really pleased to be here. Chapin Spencer, Director of Public Works. I've been in this role for now 13 years. And every spring, it is really an exciting opportunity to get out to wards and talk about the upcoming work, get your feedback and guidance on where your priorities are and where we need to move forward. What you're going to see here is a very quick overview of our work for this year, and then we can talk about your questions and interests. So next. Yeah, it's all right. The last one we did also had a little delay. This is great.
I love it. It's supposed to let me use the keys, but then, and I tested it and everything, and no, you're not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Great. We have two main projects this year, and the slides will catch up that we are finishing in the next 3 months. I am very excited to announce that both Main Street, Great Streets, and the Champlain Parkway are continuing to be on time and on budget. We know that you all have had a lot of patience with these multi-year construction projects. We are going to be as excited to get these done as you are. With Great Streets, Main Street, we are finishing with brick crosswalk installation, paving and striping, finishing landscaping, etc. As a matter of fact, paving could start as early as tomorrow. We are also going to be next week installing the brick crosswalks at Church and Main. There will be localized closure during the week for the installation of the concrete sub bases and then the brick crosswalks. They will be back fully open for the weekend. And both projects are going to be open to the public by late June or July at the latest. We're really excited to get through and complete these generational projects and let the community enjoy the benefits of a lot of hard work. Next. The Champlain Parkway, the other very large project underway. What was originally designed before I was born and before many people in this room were born, was designed as a 4-lane high-speed highway dividing our community. Through multiple administrations, this has been redesigned as a 25-mile-an-hour 2-lane road from Interstate 189 to downtown. I'm pleased to say that thanks to a lot of advocacy in the community and support within the city, we've added a lot of green stormwater, a lot of pedestrian and bike facilities. There's over 2.5 miles of new shared use path as part of this project. And I believe it is now ready to fit well within the fabric of our community. Next. With Pine Street and the Champlain Parkway, what's left, kind of similar to Great Streets, Main Street. There is a little bit of work in the Pine and King and Pine and Maple intersections. We just completed some striping there. The signals have just been turned on. There's some landscaping there that needs to be completed and general cleanup. Further south by the interstate, there's some overhead signs that need to be installed, final paving, striping, and we're expecting the interstate connection to be made in late June. Next. We've talked about Main Street. I would just say one of the hidden secrets here that we've talked about a little bit is there's a 150-year-old brick and stone ravine sewer that cross cuts through downtown about 30 feet below the ground. And that was the old vestige of the ravine that used to run through downtown.
But you can see on the map right over there. Fine.
That's right. Yes, indeed, Chris, thank you. And we were on borrowed time with that ravine. It would not have allowed the post apartments project, for example, to be built and opened if we had not abandoned the ravine in this key downtown section. So thanks to this collective work 30 feet down, we're now able to open post apartments and hopefully see a bunch of other redevelopment, such as on the Gateway block, where we have been able to abandon the ravine sewer next. So this is the work left to do on Main Street. We're gonna get to it very quickly. The public art, I'm really excited about. We've installed some of it, as you've seen, but more is to come next. The next large project is going to be Gray Street's Cherry Street, which could start in 2027. It may be 2028. We've been having conversations with the community about what's best for the community. We have some federal grants for this work to do the same kind of utility work underground and then streetscape improvement above ground. This also allows for the reconnection of two streets that were ripped out during urban renewal 60 years ago, because the thought at the time was connected street grid was not important to downtown. And I think many of us have regretted that decision for a long time. This project will reconnect St. Paul and Pine Street through the downtown. So this project is funded by two large grants and TIF funding and a little bit of general fund money. That said, we've heard from some of the businesses, they want more of a pause between these large projects, so we are exploring the opportunity of whether we can delay the start of the Cherry Street work next. Rob.
So thank you again for having DPW on your agenda tonight. And I have the privilege of talking about some of the bread and butter work we get to do: sidewalks, paving, water main work that exists across the city, with a lot of work also focused here in Ward 3. So thank you to the voters of Burlington last year for approving a big capital bond that has helped substantially refund our sidewalk and paving program. We have 130 miles of sidewalk in the city. Sidewalks tend to have about a 40-year lifespan, give or take. And that kind of puts us on a 3 mile per year sustainable cycle. We can keep up with that. That tends to keep the whole network on a sustainable schedule. Of course, we're even with this kind of recent decade of over reinvestment, we are still playing catch up on a lot of deferred maintenance. With that said, this year we are approaching that 3 mile mark. Again, thank you to the voters. Thank you to hard work across the city to get a robust sidewalk schedule filled out. The season has started. We're pleased to say we started on Manhattan Ave about 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point with our first 4 of the season, and we're continuing to work through the entire network. That's thanks to our in-house crews. We'll talk a little bit about the distinction between contract work and in-house work. We do have a nearly $1.6 million contract, plus that additional work that we do in-house. As I mentioned, we're approaching, if not slightly over, that 3 mile production number that we need to hit year to year. And this contract is largely funded again by the 2025 town meeting day bond, which we couldn't have done without your support and the resident support. Next slide, please. What I will say is, we can go down in greater detail, but we'd rather leave time for questions. What we can say is we do a sidewalk inventory every so often. That tends to be on a 5-year life cycle where we'll mechanically assess the entire network. We'll conduct field inspections every year, but we try to put a picture together with data as to what level of condition every linear foot essentially of sidewalk, what condition every linear foot of sidewalk is in. We map that out. We assign certain scores based on activity levels. Is it near schools? Is it near senior centers? What is the pedestrian activation of that area? And that helps us inform what level of resources we need to devote to these sidewalks every year. Now, that's always dependent, of course, on overall condition. A sidewalk that's completely failed, that might bump that up, even if other factors are smaller. We are always dependent on available funding, and we try to coordinate with other nearby projects to to chase, to put good money after good money so that we can kind of capitalize on the mobilization of activity for a project. So we'll go to the next slide, but we're happy to talk more about how that works. This is our contract list for the year. You can see some exciting potential crosswalk enhancements, RRFBs. You might know those as flashing rapid beacons that I believe are being installed at Pearl and George, if I'm not mistaken, in addition to the crosswalk at North and Blodgett, long delayed, given a lot of site conditions that have been challenging. We've been permitted for that project. Hope to make that happen this year. Weather, unknown unknowns under the ground can always affect projects, so we like to just caution that. But this is the contract list for the year. We do a lot of other work in-house, lasting up to about a mile of work, and that'll include a couple other projects nearby like Pine and Bank and the intersection of Lake and College that come from in-house work. Other projects can happen throughout a given year if safety conditions emerge, if we have more capital left over where we can add projects in. So this is a near final list, but never the final list.
So it looks like if you straight had a W in it, you might have a better chance of getting on the list.
That's right.
For this year, yes.
Good. Yeah, alphabetically, right? Next slide, please. Part of that bread and butter I talked about is paving. Obviously, we have emerged from a very difficult winter, probably the coldest winter based on some data in almost 20 years. So that affects a lot of the things that go on in the ground. You get all that movement in the ground that can crack sidewalk, can crack pavement, can hurt the pipes underneath the ground because of all the movement. So we are pleased to say that finally the asphalt plants are open. They themselves have also emerged from this really cold winter. We have a $1.7 million contract we will be devoting to our road network. Road network's around 95 miles. We try to, on a sustainable schedule, try to pave 4 miles per year. Recent years, due to inflation, have been challenging to be able to maintain that 4 mile mark. Now, this year, there have been some green shoots in how that works. We had more competitive bids this year than we have normally had. That allowed us to have a more robust list and add a couple streets onto our list. We are challenged by rising fuel prices. There are geopolitical issues that obviously at a city level we can't manage that we're always going to be impacted by. So that is something to keep in mind for future construction and how that might impact bid prices. But we do have about 3.5 miles planned for the year, slightly short of that annual target we try to hit. With the additional bond money that we're able to put out on the street, we expect the next few years, assuming good bids and no known unknowns like fuel prices or others that may impact bids, we expect a more robust year over the more robust paving schedule over the next few years. Next slide, please. So hard to see, but similar to sidewalk, and I'll only spend 60 seconds on this, but happy to talk more about it. How do we make our paving list? It's a great question that we get every year, and it's an honest question because with 95 miles of road emerging from a tough winter, but only being able to pave about 3.5 to 4 miles with additional maintenance that we'll do on the side, it is an honest answer we can give you, which is funding, nearby projects, type of street. If these are emergency access streets, arterials, collector streets, they tend to get a higher score in terms of how we have to plan the limited dollars we have to go after the paving schedule. So we'll show you the paving schedule here. We'll show you the paving list here, and the schedule for kind of the downtown general location is going to be in the rough early to mid-summer months. But if it's easy enough to see, you can see we've got quite a few streets nearby, including College and Pearl, which are held over from the 2025 contract list, but will be happening this spring/summer. Nearby, we also have Depot Street, Park Street, thank you, missed that, and Colchester Ave, which is currently underway. Be on the lookout for detour signs, sign up for our alert system, which we'll show you at the end if you are impacted by travel conditions or want to know more about how that might affect you. So, and there's also a couple nearby patches. You can see Archibald, Intervale, Lake Street, Lower North Ave if you travel that direction. And this isn't to say again that this is the final list. It's clearly a near final list, but as the season goes on, as reserve funds are potentially available, there might be more to do. Next slide. What we are happy to share is that our wastewater treatment plant upgrades are underway. thanks to the voters of Burlington again for voting in favor of the lake and water bonds in 2025. We're able to kind of kick off this stage zero project, which really tackles the early part of the wastewater treatment process, not funded directly by these most recent bonds. But this allows us to get everything in the works going out to bid later this year for the big project of stage one, which really starts to tackle kind of phosphorus removal and other critical parts of the wastewater treatment plant, with hopeful construction starting in the coming years. We're also able to share that we have water main improvement projects underway. These are critical, as you might imagine, from a life safety perspective. We have to provide clean drinking water. The pipes can be challenged. They can be old after a long winter. We have a few streets on that list this year, hopefully more to come in future years, as well as the potential for a really important stormwater improvement project at Manhattan Ave, a series of stormwater outfalls that help convey stormwater out of the city safely, and more to come on that if you live nearby. Next slide, please. This is just a quick slide available on our website. It might be hard to see for a lot of you folks in the room, but it helps lay out the plan as it exists to complete this generational reinvestment of the wastewater system, which is so critical to our recreation, public health, and economy. Next slide. A couple of things we'd like to share and point out, and it's really important for you folks in Ward 3. We have a partnership with the Blue BTV program where you are eligible for free stormwater assessments at your place of residence, and we'll give you an assessment and an inventory of projects that may help you better manage the stormwater on your property, which of course could be a benefit to you. And then there's a larger societal benefit. A lot of this area is on the combined system, which is most critical to having, best management practices from a stormwater perspective. We have a lot underway on the city side on stormwater. More to come on that in the future, but we're trying to do our part. If you're so inclined, look at the link we have up there. It'll be online as well. See if that's something you're interested in. You can also sign up to Adopt a Drain. We have, dozens, if not at this point, 100+ people signed up to kind of help manage some of the easy kind of challenges we have at drains, to unclog them, make sure they're in good shape prior to storms. Sign up if you're so inclined. Get to adopt your own drain. It's a great partnership network we're a part of. Next slide, please. Really important, as important as anything we have shared with you, are the ways that we want you to be in touch with us. If you have simple maintenance requests, the best way is SeeClickFix, which you can access directly via the app or via our website or the city website in general. There's a button on every page. Of course, if you would prefer, see our customer service team. You can call them or email them with the same concerns if you choose not to use SeeClickFix, or if you want to share any concerns or compliments on the work we do. In addition, if you're interested in construction impacts, we encourage you to check out Front Porch Forum. If you're not on it, they have a new urgent alert feature for really big, important, kind of critical alerts we'll make use of, but we also make use of that for sidewalk updates, paving work updates. You will see signage around for paving and sidewalk projects in the Greenbelt, just to give you a general heads up, things are coming. And then we really encourage you, if you're comfortable, to sign up for VT Alert. We have about 24,000 people signed up for Burlington alerts. That could be people who live, it's largely people who live in town. It could be business owners, commuters, people who maybe have parents or kids who live in the town who want to know what's going on. We'll use that for big boil water events, big water main breaks, major construction impacts. As a city, we try not to send you too many alerts. I know that there are a lot of alerts depending on what you sign up for, but we'll try to dial it back for the most critical alerts so that you get what you need, but don't get alert fatigue.
That is informed.
Yes,
Informed.
I missed an R there. You're the first one to have thought that.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well done. You're being an
Yeah. Well done, we'll fix it.
Stay informed, everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's the last slide, but we'll
Yeah.
double check. All right, thank you all.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is that all right?
Of course.
please.
One thing, I know I'll try to go and do the SeeClickFix. Is that it? There's one place on LaFountain Street that has an absolutely awful section of sidewalk that has got to be dangerous, and I've been grumbling to myself about it for a few years and.
Okay.
I can tell you exactly which corner it's up to.
Great. We'll
Generally.
we'll take the note, but yes, if you can submit it by C-Click Fix, I'll make sure that our team gets it in the work order system.
Generally, one thing that I have been noticing that doesn't seem to get addressed is that there are a lot of, being more of a pedestrian than anything else, I would say, there are a lot of places where there are crosswalks that have just completely disappeared, just because I've been driven over for so long. There's one at the corner of where George runs down into Pearl, there's two of them there that are missing, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Understandably, but
Right.
it's easy to miss them as being important.
Yes,
You're the one,
we agree.
wrong place at the wrong time.
Our traffic team is the one who paints crosswalks, and I will just put out the call that we have seasonal summer help. That really is what drives our crosswalk painting. You know, any person, young, old, has the time in the summer, wants to be a painter for us. Their job is online on our website, and it pays good money, it's important work, and it makes the city safer. So we'd love your help. Spreading the word.
And what's the name of to look for the job?
Yes, they're called seasonal traffic workers, right?
That's right.
Traffic maintenance workers, yeah.
And if you go to the city website or our website, there'll be a jobs button and you can access it that way and you're able to share from there too.
Yeah. Yes, traffic maintenance workers seasonal. That's it.
On College Street, just below Pine. The south side where the old factory is, that's now elderly housing, elderly and disabled housing. It's right on it faces urban renewal.
Yeah,
So it faces an office building which is emptying. As it empties, I wonder if it could be housing. I mean, they're staying out their lease, but it's a building right there. Seems like a possibility.
right.
The sidewalk, I mean, the curbs are gone. In 10-foot area in one, and in the corner, it's looks like Godzilla stepped on it.
Our College and Pine intersection. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Charlie.
I had two questions. The bike path that comes down from Spear Street and then Swiss Street used to adjoin on the other side of Shelburne Road. You could continue on and head down to the parks. There's now a chain link fence that separates Pine Street from the belt line. And I'm wondering if there are any plans to create a bike corridor so that bikers such as myself can continue on those routes going from that bike path down to the other bike path.
Right. Yes, thank you. And I, as a biker in the South End, hit those a lot too. So there's two options. One is to continue along Queen City Park Road, South Burlington. Has added bike lanes onto the section by the old post. And right at Pine Street, where it used to connect, is a shared use path that does pick up at that point and goes to Burlington. So
Behind Burton.
yes.
Yeah, okay, but okay.
And then hits Austin Drive. The second option is a new shared use path has been constructed. It's more of a local route that connects from Buffalo Wild Wings over to Pine Street. So should you be at Market 32, you can pick up that shared use path and get to Pine Street, that dead end section of Pine Street. I agree that the dead ending of Pine Street was not my interest, and I fought it for many years before we realized that we could not push Federal Highway to change their position on that. And hopefully, in some future date, we will figure out a bike and pedestrian connection across that.
My second question is about sidewalks. I'm assuming that you'll be using concrete for the sidewalks, and I'm wondering if DPW has investigated or considered any kind of amendments or other modifications that might reduce the carbon impact of the concrete.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment. If you have suggestions of what you're seeing from around the country for durable materials that have a lesser carbon footprint, send them along and I'm happy to take a look at it. Clearly, we look at 40-year life cycles to get a return on investment, but if there's alternate products, we're open.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, C-Click Fix has, didn't they used to close the tickets? Cause when you go on there's tickets going way back. And they might say acknowledged.
Right.
But that's the only status. And it seems to be a little bit out of control, quite frankly, and so some of the feedback that I've been getting is that people don't believe it's really a viable option anymore due to the number of items that are old and it just doesn't look like there's been a response. So if you could take a look at that and maybe bring back some feedback. I know you're working on coming up with a plan below for the garbage that's below Battery Street. And as soon as you have the dates for that, that is definitely the public really appreciates the cleanups that were done at Moran and Urban Reserve. Yeah, that was fantastic. But that area and Battery, I mean, if we can make it sooner than the 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of appreciation for that. And then the last question I had
Yeah.
was the cleanup around the belt line the bike path that ends up running around it because we have an encampment there. Is there any plan for that area?
And I believe you're talking about the landfill, the Manhattan landfill, the bike path that comes down and then parallels Route 127. I am not briefed on whether that encampment is either vacant or whether we've noticed it for relocation, but I can follow up and find out.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Grant, if I might reply a little bit to the C-Click Fix, because it's a really important tool we use, and I acknowledge that obviously for it to be effective, the public has to have confidence that it's being reviewed. What I can say is I am certain that 99.9% of issues that come in are reviewed by staff. One of the problems we do face with C-Click Fix is there are 3 or 4 different departments that are kind of playing on the back end. What I will say, we have probably the most staff on there. We manage the most issues that are DPW related. I think we do a really good job, and we go through a variety of we have a variety of protocols, have gone through periods of training and retraining. I think one of the problems that we probably get to is a lot of issues can be closed and they might need to be closed by who they're assigned to from another department. I just think we probably, to your point, need to get better organized internally, but I can assure you that they're all being reviewed. If you're feeling like you've submitted something and it hasn't been done, especially in a timely way, especially for an issue that should be done, a pothole, something like that, please let us know and feel free to, at that point, circumvent C-Click Fix and reach out to me. Some things do take longer and we have tried to be better communicative. Like if you want a road paved, that necessarily can't be done within the next few weeks. We will certainly fill a pothole. That kind of stuff may not be closed immediately and you'll see that. But if it's something that's more routine maintenance, let us know. But we do try to make sure that the issues are being handled, and appreciate that comment because
if you just
want confidence.
go back and back, then we're like in 2025, and then you're going back further than that.
Yeah.
You're probably correct that some things can just be closed, but it would be great.
It does not give a clear message that we are on the game of acting on all those requests. So understood.
And on that note, we'll transition on to the presentation from our folks from the McNeil plant. So appreciate you coming out and answering questions.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Before you go though, did want to invite you back next month, Director Spencer.
Yeah.
To talk about traffic calming measures on Lake Street. We did get a request from residents asking about that. So
Okay.
they could have you come back along with the police chief perhaps.
Traffic calming on the street. Okay, let's continue that conversation.
Okay, thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nick, that's Gary from.
Good evening.
.org.
Yeah, good
Thanks,
evening.
Mark.
I'm Nick Persampieri. I'm a Ward 3 resident, and this is Pike Porter visiting from Ward 6. We're here on behalf of two environmental groups, 350 Vermont and Stop Vermont Biomass. And we're going to talk about why Burlington Electric should close the McNeil power plant and secure alternative sources of power for its customers. If you could forward 2 slides. The McNeil power plant is located in Burlington's Inner Vale. It burns wood taken from forests in Vermont and New York to generate electricity. At 50 megawatts, it's the largest generator of electricity in the state of Vermont. It's owned 50% and operated by Burlington Electric, and Green Mountain Power and the Vermont Public Power Supply Authority also own interests in the plant. So while it's largely viewed as a Burlington issue, it's also an issue for ratepayers around the state. The plant provides between 32 and 45% of Burlington Electric's total power supply. If you could go back 1 slide. Bill McKibben, who some of you probably know, has stated that burning wood for electricity is a bad idea. The science has changed a lot since Burlington started doing it decades ago, and it makes sense to phase it out rather than incentivize it. There are 4 main reasons why we should be closing this plant and looking for alternatives. First, it's the largest stationary source of greenhouse gases in the entire state of Vermont. Second, it emits particulate matter and other pollutants that are harmful to public health, and it emits those in proximity to environmental justice communities. Third, the logging that supplies wood chips to the plant has negative impacts on forest ecosystems and the benefits they provide. Additionally, it's an old plant, it's inefficient, and the power that it provides is expensive relative to other sources. Please advance the slide. Burning wood to generate electricity emits more carbon dioxide per unit of energy generated than any fossil fuel. According to EPA, McNeil emitted over 315,000 tons of carbon dioxide in 2025. Those are the emissions from the stack. In addition, there are additional greenhouse gas emissions that take place in the forests from the equipment used to cut the trees, to chip the trees and the parts of trees, which is powered by fossil fuels, and also to transport the chips to the plant. The chips, mostly what the plant burns, are called whole tree chips, and the chips are trucked to a transfer facility in Swanton and then sent by rail to the plant from there. Next slide, please. Burlington Electric claims that the McNeil plant is carbon neutral because it engages in sustainable forestry, and the trees reabsorb carbon as they regrow. This is a myth. burning wood to generate electricity is not carbon neutral. The carbon dioxide is emitted into the air immediately when it's burned. And even if you agree that it's appropriate to credit the tree regrowth against those emissions, it takes decades to a century or more to eliminate that carbon debt. It takes decades to a century to even get back to par with fossil fuel emissions, because burning wood puts 2 to 3 times as much CO2 into the air per unit of energy produced as burning natural gas. Additionally, there's no guarantee that regrowth will take place. Land can be converted to other uses. The trees might succumb to insects, disease, or drought. Next slide, please. This is Burlington Electric's theory. They claim that when you burn biomass, it emits biogenic carbon dioxide, which in a closed loop is just reabsorbed by the trees, so you don't have to worry about it. On the other hand, they claim that when you burn fossil fuels, they just go up into the atmosphere and cause global warming, which of course they do. But this chart is kind of ridiculous because everything is connected. The trees also absorb carbon from fossil fuel power plants. And in order to address the climate crisis, we need to both reduce emissions of greenhouse gases and also preserve our forests so they can play their role in sequestering carbon. Next slide, please. So what we should be moving towards are low carbon sources of power, wind or solar, battery storage, hydropower, which don't emit CO2 and leave the forests intact. Fossil fuels emit CO2, but at least the forests remain intact. Burning wood puts more CO2 into the air than burning fossil fuels, and it impairs the forest storage of carbon. Next slide, please. Burlington Electric claims that it just burns wastes or residues left over from higher value harvests for lumber, for example. That's the highest value use of a tree. But it's really clear that whole trees are chipped to make chips to supply the plant. Next slide, please. The activity in the forest impairs forest ecosystems and the benefits that they provide, including flood protection, and it has a destructive impact on forest ecology and wildlife. Something called whole tree chipping is done for Burlington Electric. This involves using the whole tree and removing the whole tree from the forest. It differs from traditional forestry, which basically just remove the main parts of a tree, the main trunk of the tree, and left the tops and limbs and other parts of the tree in the forest, where they would decompose over time and return nutrients and carbon to the soil. Next slide, please. older trees store a lot more carbon than younger trees that may grow back after a harvest. Next slide, please. Then apart from the problem with the carbon dioxide emissions, there are real human health concerns because McNeil emits a number of air pollutants that are harmful to human health, including particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxides, and toxic air pollutants, including benzene and formaldehyde. The plant does have pollution control equipment. They do have air permits from the state. They have an electrostatic precipitator, which removes some of the particulate matter that would otherwise be emitted. They have a selective catalytic reduction system that addresses some of the nitrogen oxide emissions. But those controls don't remove all of the pollutants. And according to medical science, no amount of fine particulate matter is safe from a human health standpoint. The plant is located near the Old North End and Winooski. And according to the Vermont Environmental Disparity Index, residents of both the Old North End and Winooski are more vulnerable to environmental risks due to environmental hazards and population characteristics than residents of other areas. So we would be better off from a human health standpoint to transition to cleaner sources of power like wind and solar that don't have those impacts. Next slide, please. Burlington Electric has claimed over the years that the plant is needed in order to keep rates low. However, an analysis of financial statements prepared by Burlington Electric shows that the plant has actually lost money 8 of the last 10 fiscal years. Losses during those 10 fiscal years have totaled more than $34 million. This includes depreciation, but it doesn't include interest, so it doesn't take into account capital expenses that are made to maintain the plant and improve it. As 50% owner, Burlington Electric bears 50% of these losses. The power generated by the plant is relatively expensive. It's well known that biopower generally tends to be expensive. I'm aware of at least 5 plants in the northeastern states that have closed for economic reasons during the last 7 or 8 years. 2 plants in New Hampshire were closed after the New Hampshire legislature passed a financial aid package for the 2 plants, but the Republican governor of New Hampshire vetoed it. These plants can only operate if they're provided with some kind of public subsidy. Based on Burlington Electric's financial statements, I've done some calculations as to how much it costs to generate power from the McNeil plant. And during fiscal years 2024 and 2025, it cost over $130 per megawatt hour to generate power at the plant. The plant, in addition to providing power, does provide some revenues, particularly from renewable energy credit sales that you have to back out. Those total about $35. If you back those out, the net cost of power, of generating power from the plant, was about $96 in fiscal year 2025 and about $99 in fiscal year 2024. The average real-time wholesale price for power in New England in 2024 was less than $40 per megawatt hour. And that was projected to increase to $55 per megawatt hour in 2025. So the cost to generate power is above market rates. It's also, the cost also exceeds the amount Burlington Electric pays for many of its other current sources of power from hydro projects and from wind projects. The Vineyard Wind project off Cape Cod that some of you may have heard of just came online recently, and it's providing power under long-term contracts at a price of about $70 per megawatt hour. And that includes RECs. You would have to back out the value of those. So you can see McNeil is more expensive than this new power from Vineyard Wind. Next slide, please. The plant is 42 years old. It's 26% efficient. That's very inefficient for a power plant. That means that only 1 of every 4 trees that are chipped to provide power actually provide electricity. The plant runs about 50 to 60% of the time and is offline a lot of times due to scheduled maintenance or operational problems that arise. Rather than seeking to phase the plant out, Burlington Electric proposed to move forward with the district energy project, which the city council approved in 2023. If that were almost 3 years down the road and it still hasn't been built, I'm not sure of the current status, but I'm concerned that going forward with that project would tend to lock in operation of McNeil for many years. The failure to take steps to move towards closure of McNeil, I think, is due to flawed climate policies in this city. And in particular, it's due to the city council entrusting Burlington Electric with development of its climate policies. The city's main climate policy, known as the Net Zero Energy Roadmap that some of you are probably familiar with, was obtained by Burlington Electric from a contractor, and it sets a goal of achieving net zero, which it defines as eliminating fossil fuel use in the heating and ground transportation sectors. So what does that leave out? It leaves out the power generation sector. It leaves out the airport. It's not surprising that if you put a power plant operator in charge of developing your climate policy, it's going to exclude itself from reducing emissions. This focus on eliminating fossil fuel use rather than greenhouse gas emissions is flawed. Yes, we want to reduce fossil fuel use, but we want to reduce all greenhouse gas emissions, including emissions from so-called renewable sources. We also have a flawed heating system ordinance that Burlington Electric took the lead on in developing. It imposes a carbon pollution impact fee on installation of new fossil fuel heating systems in new buildings and large non-residential existing buildings. The fee is imposed on installation of fossil fuel systems, but not on installation of non-fossil fuel so-called renewable systems that have high greenhouse gas emissions. And those include the district energy project. So that the district energy project, if it's built, would allow the hospital to avoid paying the carbon impact fee. And that, in fact, was a motivating force for passing the carbon pollution import fee, to force the hospital's hand and induce it to sign on to district energy. Fortunately, the hospital apparently has not agreed to go forward with district energy to date. So I'd encourage people to contact their city councilors, attend city council meetings, attend electric commission meetings, and make known your views on this important subject. And if you're interested and want more information, we have a sign-up sheet and some handouts. And we're happy to connect you with our groups if you're interested in helping out. I see I'm running short of time, so at this point I'll end, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeffrey. I'm running for state rep here in the Chittenden 16 district. It's nice to meet some new faces. Thank you for coming to do this presentation. My background is actually in industrial decarbonization policy and helping utilities work towards a low carbon future. And kind of the huge elephant in the room is, well, how do we store clean energy that we can't use during peak hours so we can pull from renewable sources in the winter peaks or the summer peaks? So what is your understanding, I guess, expectations closing McNeil would have on peak hours? And is BED having conversations about utility scale storage for renewable energy? I can take that.
Now they're planning on installing some storage.
As Nick mentioned, McNeil runs about 50% of the time. When it's too expensive, which is much of the fall and spring and some of the summer, it's just too expensive to run because energy prices are low. It can run at the peak moments in the summer and maybe break even, and it can even actually make some money in the winter because there's some peaking periods in the winter when gas prices are high. McNeil was broken this winter, so BED was spending upwards of $700 per megawatt hour to run its gas plant, for example. BED is looking at a 5 megawatt 4-hour lithium battery. Lithium ion battery to place at the McNeil plant to help peaking. As you probably know, it's not going to help at all in winter peaking. I've been advocating for, say, a 20 or 30 megawatt iron air battery with a 100-hour duration. Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, I'd love to connect on that. Yeah.
I think at this point, we are right on time for the candidate forum. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out. Step with that educational and informative. Next time we'll schedule 45 so we can have some Q&A.
If folks have other questions that weren't answered, feel free to give us your name and email or we can do the same and we can contact me.
And Councilor, would you kindly pass the attendance to the board after the meeting for a few folks and pass it to Mr. Boyala. Thank you.
Who forgot to email when you have a chance? How is the war that we have going on affecting gas prices? Does that change how you look at this? So that's something to think about and. Some feedback on.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know if we have time for that,
Yeah,
but
but just to,
love to talk about
think
it.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, McNeil is good to have during those crisis periods, but if you look at an average, like it was good during 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. But if you look over 10 years, more often than not, it's losing money.
And because it's a 42-year-old plant, even though prices are very high this winter, it was broken, so it couldn't. If they projected to make money this winter, and instead they spent, I think, $108 million on fuel that they didn't anticipate. I might be off on the number, don't quote me on the number, but. And then we have, I think, a $1.7 million fix to fix the problem. So this is what happens when you try and keep running a 42-year-old plant.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your time, you two.
Thank you.
So, moving on to our next segment, we have a candidate forum with Nicole Oil and Elaine Haney. Unfortunately, Senator Laura Gulick and Senator Vyhovsky are not able to attend tonight. They are caught up in meetings representing us down in Montpelier today. Charlie, where would be the best place for the candidates to situate themselves?
Right there.
Right there? Okay. Proud to have you up there, please. Thank you.
Is it okay to?
Oh, yeah, feel free to do that.
Just stuff in your.
So we're gonna have each of you do 2 to 3 minutes for your stump speech, announcing yourself, what your proposed policy initiatives are, and then we'll go into a 10 to 12-minute Q&A and final things go. Which one of you two would like to go first?
Want to do a coin toss?
I was here first, so. And I'll do my best to stick to 2 to 3 minutes. I might go a little bit over. So thank you very much for the invitation to speak here this evening. And thank you all for being here today. My name is Elaine Haney. I live in Essex Junction and I am the mom of 3 adult kids. And I believe in the long game and for working for good over time. From my experience, I know that leadership looks a lot like persistence, not like perfection. And I just finished my 12th year as an elected local official in Essex Junction. I've served on the boards of the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, as well as CCTV and Town Meeting Television. And I was part of the team that created the city of Essex Junction and ended a decades-long conflict with the town of Essex. And I've spent years supporting women candidates through my leadership of Emerge Vermont, and I represent Vermont nationally at the DNC. And so I am ready to put that experience to work for all of you, for Burlington and for Chittenden County. And I'm also a retired roller derby skater. And that's where I learned that when you get hit, you can either fall down and stay down, or you can get back up. So right now, our country is taking hits and Vermont is taking hits. Our federal government has been overtaken by the most corrupt and incompetent administration in our country's history. And we must do everything we can to protect Vermonters from an overreaching federal government. I'm glad that the legislature has made it possible for us to sue law enforcement officers who violate the Constitution. I support the legislature's work to protect Vermonters and our immigrant neighbors from civil arrest in sensitive places. And I'm disappointed that a bill that would have forbidden law enforcement from wearing masks and not having visible ID has been watered down. I've been talking with a lot of Vermonters lately, and they are all saying exactly the same thing. I love Vermont, but I'm not sure I can afford to live here. I see three interconnected problems that we must solve to make Vermont more affordable. First, we must get education reform right. I believe that consolidation isn't the answer, especially in Chittenden County. That CESA's cooperative education services agreements are smart approaches that have proven effective at reducing costs. And I believe we should be taking a regional approach to consolidation that respects communities. Second, we must fix healthcare so that Vermonters can actually afford to take care of themselves. Reducing premiums will have an immediate impact on property taxes, and we must seriously explore universal primary care. We need more healthcare providers offering services to reduce wait times, cost, and patient travel. And third, we must make housing more affordable. We must grow new programs like CHIP that will enable towns to build necessary infrastructure at reduced cost. Act 250 reforms must actually enable homes to be built faster and for less cost, and we must eliminate duplicative and costly permitting processes. We need leaders who know the experiences of Vermonters and who have faced tough challenges and who have put in the work to build strong communities. So I'm standing up to lead today because I know what it's like to work hard for something I truly believe in. And I truly believe in Vermont. I truly believe in all of us. And I am asking you to cast one of your 3 votes for Vermont Senate for me on August 11th. Thank you so much.
Neil, you're up.
Good evening. It's great to be here. Thank you again for the wonderful invitation. My name is Nikhil Goyal, also running for State Senate in Chittenden Central. We know that working people across our state are being priced out. We have the highest healthcare costs in the country, energy bills through the roof, property taxes have gone up nearly 40% in the past 5 years. Working people can't afford to live here. And we need new leadership in Montpelier that is going to address this cost of living crisis and fight for dignity and economic security for every single Vermonter. I've spent my career fighting for children and families. I grew up on Long Island, came to Vermont to attend Goddard College, went off to the UK to Cambridge University, where I completed a master's and PhD in sociology of education, poverty, and criminal justice. Conducted extensive research on the lives of children who've grown up in deep poverty and dropped out of school, and ended up working for Senator Bernie Sanders on the U.S. Senate Committee on the Budget and Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, working on childcare and education legislation. I came back to Vermont to teach at UVM. I've been a sociology professor there for a number of years, and I don't see the leadership equipped in our state to deal with the fundamental challenges facing working people. And that's why I'm running. I'm running to provide universal primary care to every Vermonter so that people are not held hostage by insurance companies. We know that too many people in our state use the emergency room for basic primary care. And so we can shift our dollars into more into primary and preventative care at the front end. Currently, we are spending $10 billion a year on healthcare expenditures alone. That's up from $6 billion just a few years ago. And so we are on a fiscally unsustainable path unless we make bold structural changes. And we know that patients across Chittenden County are being price gouged by our hospitals. The UVM Medical Center is often charging patients thousands of dollars more for colonoscopies and MRIs than other nearby hospitals. And that's completely unacceptable. It means that patients are fitting the bill at the end of the day. And so we need to hold those hospitals accountable and pass reference-based pricing, implement reference-based pricing in our hospitals. I'm also running to keep public dollars in our public schools, to strengthen public schools, to make sure that we address the biggest cost drivers of rising property taxes in our school budgets. I'm running to create a state land bank that would rehabilitate and modernize the more than 10,000 units of dilapidated foreclosed housing in our state and turn that into permanently affordable housing. and I'm running to protect every member of our community. I'm very proud to be the son of Indian immigrants. My parents came to this country for economic and educational opportunities, and I'm horrified by what ICE has been doing to our fellow neighbors. I've called for the abolition and prosecution of ICE, for the protections for immigrants at the state level, and will continue to use my voice, my body, and my power to stand with immigrants who are under attack by accompanying them to court, to ICE check-ins, defending our neighbors when ICE comes to our streets. And I believe that we've got to enact a bold agenda that will uplift the dignity of every single member of our community. And so I look forward to some of your questions and your thoughts, and hopefully knocking on your door in the coming months. So thank you.
So, starting off with Elaine, does anybody have any questions for her? You're a resident, so we'll let you go and then be left.
Sure. So this question is kind of to both candidates. You both mentioned universal primary care. If you could say a little bit more about how you would see that being implemented, and then would you go one step further and advocate for Act 48 implementation? And if so, how would you pay for it?
My vision of what universal primary care looks like would be, in a short way to say it, Dr. Dinosaur for everybody. So a lot of children in Vermont already are benefiting from the Dr. Dinosaur program and have been for decades. And that primary care that's provided through that would be something I'd want to see extended to all adults in Vermont as well. I'd love to see an investigation of whether we can also include dental, vision, and hearing, because those are things that are not covered by Medicare. And they're some of the most expensive costs that seniors have to deal with. And at that time, most of us are losing our hearing and losing our vision and losing our teeth. So it's really a problem. I am not certain about the details of Act 48 to speak clearly to that, but I would support any efforts and any research to bring universal primary care to Vermont and bring down costs for Vermonters.
So there's a number of wonderful advocates, such as Ellen Oxfeld and others, who've been advocating for universal health care for many years in Vermont. Sadly, we were not able to get it done during the Shumlin administration. But I think what we've seen over the past decade is that, frankly, the system that we've built, the system that we have right now is so much more expensive than the system that was proposed to be built back then. I think universal primary care is a great first step. I think the wonderful thing about Vermont is that when we act and we act boldly, other places in the country often follow us. And when we've had these horrific Medicaid cuts coming down the pipeline, what better way to show that we're dealing with that than by taking matters into our own hands, cutting out that insurance middleman, which is costly, ineffective, and just taking money out of our pockets, and actually giving money directly to providers. I think there's a real need to invest in that primary care workforce. Without them, none of this will be successful. So that's community nurses, that's nurses in general, community healthcare workers, physicians. I've spoken to many Vermonters where they often are waiting months, maybe even a year, just to get a primary care appointment. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And as I tell folks who ask me how much this is going to cost, we are already spending billions upon billions of dollars a year, and it's not actually serving us. So we need a course correction.
Councilor Grant? I think you got a question for the candidates.
Thank you. I would like to hear about your thoughts on community safety, in particular the drug crisis, which Burlington has been struggling with for a few years, but we are not the only ones. Rutland, Berry, a friend of mine visited Northfield recently and was very shocked by what they saw. Coupled with the housing situation, but specifically, the state has failed I think in addressing this drug crisis, which we just don't hear about. You don't hear of plans. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. Oh, and encourage that you take a stroll up to Top Block after this meeting.
Yeah, I'm parked up at the top of the.
Okay.
Do you?
Oh,
why don't you go?
yeah, I can go first.
You
Yeah,
go first.
sure. Yeah, we can take turns. Thank you for the question. So, I live right on Main Street, in Burlington, and I see the challenges that our residents are facing every day, and they extend to other parts of our district. I think the first and foremost thing we have to do is finally implement the overdose prevention center. The research is amply clear about the effectiveness of OPCs in reducing the number of drug overdoses and also reducing the amount of drug consumption in open air spaces. We often see. I've talked to a lot of residents who've often reminisced about going on Church Street and having a meal and leaving their kids in City Hall Park, and how that could never be possible today. And I think we have to start with the recognition that addiction is a disease. It is a public health issue and should be treated with treatment. We don't have enough treatment beds. We don't have enough long-term psychiatric care. The Howard Center is fundamentally been chronically underfunded. Those staff are working long hours for insufficient wages and benefits. And so to me, it's a multi-pronged approach that will address these challenges. And then also we've got to think about how to look at the root causes of addiction, and how that intersects with jobs and education and healthcare, and how we might coordinate those services in a more efficient way. And the other underlying thing, and I hear this consistently, Burlington has had to shoulder the responsibility of these challenges, yet the state has not often delivered inequitable resources. And so that needs to change because we feel the brunt of it, and we deserve the resources to try to fix some of these problems.
Councilor Grant, I really appreciate that question. And it is, like McNeil said, a multi-pronged approach. One of the things that I agree with that he said is we don't have enough beds for treatment. We need to reestablish the Vermont Psychiatric Hospital that we haven't had for years. There's just not enough beds for anybody with mental health care needs. In addition, Burlington is bearing the brunt predominantly from Chittenden County, but from the entire state, that other towns are not picking up. For example, I'm hearing stories about police officers picking someone up in Barrie and dropping them off here in City Hall Park. And that's not okay. And one of the reasons that's happening is because the resources are here and they're not anywhere else in the state. And we need to reestablish the funding that has been consistently cut from year to year through level funded budgets and vacancy savings that the current administration in Montpelier has been implementing. By managing budgets through vacancy savings and level funding is just cutting and cutting and cutting, and it's pushing those services away from the state and onto already overburdened nonprofits and municipalities that aren't prepared and aren't funded to do that work. And there are discussions at the legislative level on regionalization of some services, for example, emergency services like paramedics and such. I would love to see that regionalization conversation expand and continue so that all towns in Chittenden County are holding together the burden and the need so that we are all serving people together. If you're in Essex Junction in my town and you have services that you need, you can't get them in Essex Junction. We don't have a social service net, a safety net in Essex Junction. We don't have a homeless shelter. We have a food shelf that's open twice a month. That's it. So other towns are not necessarily equipped or funded in a way that can support the services that Burlington provides. And so I think it requires a regional as well as a statewide reinvestment in the services of recovery, mental health care, and housing.
You said that Essex doesn't have the services over there. Didn't you previously serve on the council over there?
Yes, I just finished my fourth term in the various forms of Essex Junction government. I was a city councilor. My last meeting was last week. Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I just had to reformulate here. You guys kind of hit on a couple of things, but yeah, a lot of the discussion regarding this issue has been, regarding the hotel program. And I think as you both kind of hit upon, a lot of the folks that are unhoused for a reason. And typically that reason is because they're dealing with an untreated medical condition, whether it's a substance use disorder or a mental health condition. And access to care is been the big issue in putting someone into a hotel. So they get them off the streets, prevent them from succumbing to the elements, but it does absolutely nothing to really address the underlying condition that caused them to lose their housing to begin with. It's like we're treating the symptoms without affecting the cause, and it's kind of like trying to heal a gunshot wound with gauze. It's just simply not going to work. And so what types of things do you think we could do to reduce the barriers there? Because, resources are limited and we've got to get things through the legislature. We have finite dollars. What's the solution to, one, increase the level of services for treatment for people who want it? Because I hear from our people on the front lines that, hey, we've got people that want to go into services and they can't get them. And then the other side of the coin is we have people who don't want to get the services that are engaging in all manner and forms of hooliganism here. So the questions, I guess, are how do we reduce the barriers and create more options for people who want the treatment? And how do we deal with the people who need the treatment but are refusing to get it?
Well, I think it's a combination of many things, which every answer we've given this evening, I think, is a combination of things. One of the things is that, I believe that the purpose of government is to take care of people. And the decisions that the current administration in Montpelier has made has indicated that that is not what they believe. And they have pushed those services out of state government onto municipalities and nonprofits. I think the state should step back up and fund programs, fully fund places, designated agencies, fully fill positions in the Agency of Human Services and all of its departments so that the services that we need in our cities and towns are being met by the state as well as by the nonprofits and the cities and towns themselves. I think we need to really focus on a continuum of housing, transitional, emergency, affordable, so that folks have places to go in the stages of their lives as they are recovering and as they are figuring out what they need to do. And I do sincerely believe that reestablishing the state hospital and having permanent housing for folks with mental health conditions that are not going to improve over time, that we need that resource as well. It's really a concerted effort, and it really requires a holistic approach. I'd love to see some sort of summit on the care of vulnerable Vermonters. We should all be coming together at the table like Burlington already does with the situation table process. Let's do that everywhere. Let's make sure that all of the parties that are involved in caring for Vermonters are at the table, they have the resources, and they're able to deploy them smartly and equitably.
Yeah, I appreciate all of the thoughts that have been said. I think there's a couple of ways I would approach this. I definitely believe we have to dramatically increase state capacity. And some of that means not just relying on nonprofits, but actually having state employees do this type of work. So we just don't contract everything out, because that's often what we do in Vermont and many other places. This is a function of neoliberal governance over the past 40 years, where we just contract and privatize. I think the other area I would also look at is, when you speak to law enforcement and mental health providers and service providers, we know who the small minority of individuals who are dealing with mental illness, who are engaged in criminal behavior, who are engaging in antisocial behavior in some shape. It's a small minority. We know who they are. We see the same people over and over again. And to me, it requires a serious coordination on all of those providers together to identify those individuals and provide direct interventions. And so things, for example, one of the areas where I've worked on is the Raise the Age legislation, which treats young adults who are accused of misdemeanors and less serious felonies in the juvenile system rather than the adult criminal system. Because we know that the recidivism rates of the juvenile system is half of that of the adult system. They have much more resources, they have rehabilitation. You get almost none of that in the adult system. And so that's an area where we've seen enormous progress, and people that are actually being diverted from the criminal justice system, leading much more productive lives because there was that intervention in the first place. So that's an area where I think we have to absolutely expand on. And then I think in terms of psychiatric long-term care, if you look at the history of deinstitutionalization, we said we have these, places like Waterbury, often draconian institutions that are authoritarian in nature and not serving patients. But when we closed those types of institutions, we didn't replace them with well-funded community-based alternatives. And so that's what we are left with. And that is not just a Burlington issue, that's a nationwide issue where we have not funded the latter piece, and Congress failed to do that in the 1960s. And so we're living with that reality. And I think to be very honest, I think there are many important decisions we can make at the state level, but we also really need federal policy that can back this up, because we can't do it alone. Vermont is already dealing with major fiscal challenges. I wish I could wave a magic wand and tell you that we could fund all of these wonderful things tomorrow. But we have to prioritize how can we make our communities more safer, more livable, and more affordable. And so be very pinpointed about where we can do those things. And that's what I'll be focused on.
We have any other questions for the candidates?
I'll do one last follow-up. So all too often in our world, everything's framed in a binary choice. So we're living in a non-binary. So we have black or white, yes or no, whatever. And when it comes to mental health issues, people who engage in behavior that infringes on the rights of others and causes harm to the community, the options are to go to treatment or go to jail. And that doesn't always work for something. And it seems like there ought to be like another option, for folks who need to be removed for the community for a period of time because they're acting in a manner that does cause problems, but allows them to get the treatment that they need without having them come out on the other side as a criminal, because if they have the criminal conviction, they have trouble finding a job, they have trouble finding houses. So that doesn't work either. That sets them up. So that's not really good. So I've always felt like there needs to be a way to kind of temporarily remove these folks from the community, but without the criminal thing. That's what I would refer to as a compulsory program for compassionate custodial care. Would that be something that either one of you would support, or what are your thoughts on that?
If I might, yeah, it's a great question. What you're referring to, I believe, is involuntary commitment.
No, compulsory program.
So, okay, but at least my understanding, involuntary commitment is similar in that there are individuals who are a threat to themselves or others, and there's a process by which that individual is removed from.
Outdated term.
Okay, outdated term, yeah. But I would say that I think we need to reevaluate some of those laws. I do believe that a lot of cities and municipalities are considering that, especially in light of the COVID spike in crime. There is some, in the past, I've been very hesitant about forced treatment, but in the past year, there's been some new research coming out, especially in light of fentanyl, that forced treatment could be effective in some ways. And so I'm open to those ideas and very keen to look at those research studies, because that is something that the field, psychological field, is actually pointing to as something that could be beneficial for some of these individuals. So
we have all seen some folks on the street who we know, and we see them and we think they need some real help. And I am very interested in pursuing policies like that, but I would want to make be very, very careful that their civil liberties are not infringed upon, and that the care that they are given is not the kind of care where they're out of sight, out of mind, but they are not receiving the kind of care they deserve. It's a really difficult but important question, and I would want the state to investigate that deeply.
Hi, I'm Charlie Messing. I live on the other side of City Hall Park. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from New York, left in '84. It was already this bad in '84 in New York City. Ronald Reagan decided that they should empty all the mental hospitals and everyone should be one big happy or not family and release people onto the street. And they didn't have programs set up. And at this point, Howard basically engulfed about 20 agencies that used to exist here. And they can just about handle what they've got. I think we need another entity to help people who are on the street who are helpless. I was in that field for 15 years, helping people with disabilities, being on a pilot program where we had 24/7 supervision over a fellow who had been in incidents, 40 incidents where the police were called. And he's gone now, but he was considered the most problematic case in Vermont. And that was the solution. 5 full-time jobs. And oddly enough, it did not cost more than a cell in the state hospital. 100-something thousand. But in the state hospital, they used to let them farm and they made their own food. Everybody was happy. And the relatives thought they were being exploited and that they should sit inside and smoke cigarettes and watch TV. I think getting people to do positive things and teaching them skills and getting people, giving people things to do is better than telling them to get out of the park. I mean, we're playing whack-a-mole with people and sending them to one park or another, or one street or another, or one tent or another. And we do need that on a national scale, of course. And I don't know if something can be done statewide without being done nationally, but hopefully both will improve. And we really do need that. I don't think Howard is the solution, and the police are certainly not the solution. And I hope we can do things. And thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Any last questions, comments? We are very much ahead of schedule. So kind of thinking that since had a little oversight and did not have a dedicated counselor forum for this time, if there's no one else for the 2 Senate candidates, maybe we could get an update from our 2 city councilors if you are open to that.
Actually, before you do that, so both of you state your name and the position you're in.
I'm Elaine Haney. I'm running for I'm a candidate for the Vermont Senate in the Chittenden Central District.
McNeil Goyle, candidate for state senate in Chittenden Central.
Not after this, I probably should give you guys time to make closing statement too, so if you want to take a moment to do that.
Oh, well, I'll just say thank you very much for your time. And I loved being here watching this meeting. Essex Junction is trying to do something like neighborhood assemblies or something. If we could have 20 people show up and talk about their neighborhoods, that would be amazing. So you really have something wonderful here. Thank you so much. I'd love to just sort of pass around my little flyer, and I have to get 100 signatures to get on the ballot. And so if you are a registered voter in Vermont, or in this district, I'd love for you to sign the petition and get on the ballot. I'll just pass this around and you can just skip over it if you don't want to sign it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Great to see many of you, and look forward to keeping in touch. Please do reach out if you have any thoughts, questions, or ideas. Look forward to the months ahead. Thank you.
All right, Counselor, since we're ahead of schedule, you want to take maybe 5-10 minutes total give a brief update and maybe we can wrap our meeting up a little ahead of schedule today. It's not often that we get to do that. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, so yeah.
If you want.
Thank you.
You good? One?
One is good. Yeah. Thanks. So right now we're dealing with the good, the bad, and the ugly with regards to some recent success stories from our police department. They've made some major arrests with regards to drug trafficking in our area. And that is affected some houses close to the downtown area and in parts of the Old North End. So that's good, but what it's done is it has disrupted individuals who were hanging out in these houses where they were buying and participating in drug activity. And all of a sudden, these places are no longer accessible to them. So when people are very concerned right now, when they were looking to see what was happening around the State Building, on Pearl Street, Cherry Street, and then the removal of one of the bus shelters, similar to what we did to remove the bus shelter that was in front of the library. It's all related. So trying to secure those areas, what we see, and this is what we've seen for the last few years, is activity moves. So now we have a situation at the top of the block. And I've definitely been fully aware of it. If Councilor Sanchez Parkinson hasn't heard about it yet, she will certainly hear about it. And I know you've seen what's been going on. So I am trying to engage in some conversations to see what can be done. We're in this situation where what is considered, quote unquote, a low-level crime of substance use in the public doesn't get the same attention as the trafficking does. Definitely, we need the trafficking work done. There is no question, because Burlington and other parts of Vermont were targeted. So just so everybody knows that this is on the radar, this is a big concern not only for businesses, but also for residents in the area. We're in budget season. So there've been a lot of meetings for that. When you go to the city's website, click on agenda, you're able to click on the budget meetings. They're listed. You're able to see all the presentations from the department heads, including the summaries with regards to how they've saved money this year. And you can see not only their presentations, but their line by line documents. So it's all there. It's all fully transparent. The council has to vote on the budget. I believe June 15th is the date. The review of the Burlington Police Department's participation in 311, waiting for an update as to when that's going to be released. My understanding is the department is done with their use of force. The mayor and the chief are requesting that the police commission have a special meeting, but they're trying to work out when all this is going to be publicly released. I've also asked for an update and asked that there be a public message as well, because a lot of people are asking. Do you have anything you'd like to throw in?
I guess what I would add, yes, lots of budget meetings, but what I also find it very interesting about those meetings is that we get an overview of what the different departments are doing as well. So if you're interested in what a department is doing, checking out some of those meetings is great, and they always list what departments are presenting. A few other sort of areas I've been working on. I've been part of an ad hoc committee looking at tax properties, tax fairness for home home property taxes. That is a working group that's been meeting and continuing the work of last year. The goal is to come up with a few solutions by the end of this year. And so look out for what that committee will propose back to the council. And hopefully we move something forward. Two other areas that I'm focusing on right now, as some of you know, I'm now chairing following Councilor Grant's chair of the RAB committee. I've now initiated that work as well. And we are recommending the city council to accept a gift from the Missisquoi, a public art gift that would go up in Battery Park. So that would specifically impact our own community here. So look out for more on that work as well. And then lastly, on Friday, I will be providing a testimony for this RAB charter that's moving through the state level. I will be doing a testimony for the Senate Government Operations Committee. So more to come on that. That's moving along and hoping that gets moved forward. I think that's all for my end for now.
The other thing I want to quickly mention is a couple of years ago and years in the past, we've done in the Old North End community cleanups. We will have one on May 30th. There will be dumpsters and dump trucks for scrap metal, but it's an opportunity. So it'll be at SA and IAA. And it's an opportunity for residents to get rid of stuff that they're not normally able to. With the last time we did in 2024, we had a lot of people walk. You know, they couldn't get to the DPW drop centers, but they were able to walk a couple of blocks to get to the schools to get rid of stuff. We had college students bringing stuff. We had elderly residents bringing stuff. So just want to make everyone aware of that. And we will be doing front porch forums, social media, and handing out flyers for it. Thank you.
Are there any plans to hold any of these in the other parts of the third ward, like the waterfront or down at King Maple or even here in downtown?
Well, so the DPW, as I discussed earlier, have been doing the big cleanups down there. We can do something like that, but we have the cleanup crew that works that area, and they work Thursdays, and they also work periodically on Saturdays, and probably be doing more so during the winter. But if people are interested in having an engagement with that, we can work on that. But we have DPW more engaged in that area, and this is really for people to get rid of stuff. You know how when students move out and we have all the stuff that's dumped on green spaces? When we had it closer toward graduation, and this is going to be clearing after graduation because the seniors, they stay here past when UVM does their spring move out events. The seniors are still here because they're graduating. They ended up coming and getting rid of stuff because they move out the end of May, early June. So it's a kind of different. It's different in terms of what we're trying to grab. We have a whole variety of what constitutes garbage, but happy to talk to you more about that. Yeah.
Trying to not so much take out things that would be considered trash, garbage, or refuse, but to take items that people may not need or want, but still have some value and try to find them a home elsewhere in the community, either.
We did do some of that. I mean, I am going to be seeking volunteers for people that have trucks or SUVs, because we did end up getting people dropping off furniture that was perfectly good. I myself personally made a couple of runs to Resource down on Pine Street. We had some things we just left out, and as people were driving up, getting rid of other things, they were taking some of the furniture. We also will have containers for sharps. We'll have the gloves for picking up sharps. We will have garbage bags. So maybe we work on getting a team to go down to other parts of the downtown Old North End area. So we can certainly, that's up for discussion.
Thank you. Councilor Sessions, person, you want to? Anything else to add?
Nothing else.
The end of May, when the students leave, or when many students leave. I used to live on Loomis and Union, and it was incredible how much stuff would be brought out and left. Appliances and couches and clothing. Enough to fill this room. Yes, kids, sometimes they want to get rid of a couch and they don't know what to do. So they leave it on the green space and hopes that the city will take it away. And sometimes the city doesn't treat it as a priority. And if I ever see someone who looks like they're stuck with something and it's been there for a week and they wish somebody would take it away, I say, just with chalk or paint or whatever, draw something obscene on it and it will be gone by nighttime. Someone will get offended and they'll get it out. The city works like that sometimes.
Thank you, Charlie. I just did a quick Google search and the UVM Spring Move Out project is going to be Thursday, May 14th. So that'll be next week from 11 to 2 p.m. on Lower Loomis Street.
Okay, I guess at this point, we'll roll into public forum. If anyone has anything, oh, you got questions?
Had a comment. I live on Clark Street, and starting about a week ago, I just noticed a huge increase in activity. And maybe it was triggered by those buildings. It's just crazy.
Yes.
And it's really, really concerning. I mean,
Yes.
I'm starting to question whether I can keep living there. It's just nuts.
I used to live on Clark Street, so I love that street. So hopefully the answer will be yes, you can continue to live there, but that what you're seeing is exactly what I was talking about. And there are people that are very well aware, they're very, very concerned. The questions are, what can the police department do? And those are going to be discussions that are going to be had. We see an increase in activity. We have people that were in the motel program. They had what they call cold weather days. All those days are used up. So that's led to an increase of even more people. And then with these houses, we're talking about one on Grant, we're talking one on South Winooski. These have been problem locations for some time. And so now they are not quote unquote open for business anymore. And this is a big part of what we're seeing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, everybody. So we'll be rolling into the public forum now. If anyone has anything to say, for up to 2 minutes. Not seeing any hands. Yeah, you have something to say, Councilor?
Yes, I just wanted to share a couple of community events happening in the next week. We have a community night at the ballpark. This is the Center City Little League. It's at Roosevelt Park. It'll be lots of you want to grab a hot dog, grab a burger. There'll be lots of just being in community. So just that is next Wednesday at 5:45 is the first pitch. And then this is in South End, but there'll be the South End Get Down on the 15th. And then, of course, this city marathon, which also many of us will be impacted as we live in the area. So excited to have visitors, and also I always come out with my kids to cheer on some of the runners.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right, I'll just say thank you for everybody that came out tonight. You had other things you could have done on a Wednesday night, but you chose to come here and be with us, and for that, we're grateful. And especially for those of you who came in person and online. We appreciate you being here tonight. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our friends over at American Flatbread, who for the better part of the past year have been providing nourishment for our MPA. It's kind of our version of the community dinner. And on that note, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?